Let me ask you this, Jimmy. Let's fast forward it to today. Back then, as you know, the mayor was Rudy Giuliani. If he wanted to probably
Yeah.
run for a third term, probably we would have allowed him. He endorsed Mike Bloomberg, who became the mayor, overcoming great odds. Remember, Mark Green
Yeah.
was the leading candidate.
Yeah,
Today,
I remember.
the man who might be mayor is named Zohran Mamdani. He's an avowed far left socialist. He's got some crazy ideas. Jim, you're a New Yorker. What's
Well,
going to
all
happen?
right, let's start.
I gotta
Well, I
follow
don't
up
know
to
what's
that.
going to happen. Yeah, but here's a couple things. Okay, I was a much better trader, much better banker, much better father, much better whatever it is from 50 on than I was at 30. Okay, this I don't know. I've never met Zoran Mundavi. Okay, I but I'll tell you this: he's charismatic, he's articulate, and he has ideas that are just utterly insane to me. Okay, but the thing is, I'm not even gonna, but he's 30, whatever he is. He's 32 years old. Go and run something. And then if and then go and do a bit. Go, don't. This should not be New York City should not be an experiment lab for just this incredible, free groceries, no police. Go to tough minority areas and say how do they feel about the idea of no police around. I mean, so I like this, and Charlie, I read your articles, and I love your provocative stuff. But you and George Will, this business about a contained experiment on socialism, we don't need that to know it doesn't work. There are hundreds of years of history that this is a really bad idea. Okay, and if we're gonna do
Well,
this,
I didn't endorse the idea. It was I
know,
went a little differently.
I know. But George
Far
Will,
from it.
who's pretty smart guy, and he's fantastic to read and listen to. He really has this notion of a contained experiment in socialism. So I hope Mamdani wins. Yeah, let's do that in some little town in Canada. Okay, we shouldn't be doing it in New York City, which is incredibly important to the world economy. All right.
Mandami, first of all, free food in Kansas City did not work. Okay. So we have an example in the last 10 years it didn't work. But no one wants to hear that. That's number one. Number two, what does a mayor do? Mike Bloomberg, he was kind of made to be the mayor, right? He understood how to make things run, understood budgets, understood where the revenue comes from, understood how to deal with unions. Like he was, unbelievable
very
guy.
Successful guy.
Very ridiculously doesn't get enough credit for what he's built, believe it or not, my opinion. And then you got Mamdani, who's an influencer. And what I think I would like to ask you, as many CEOs, and you've got the ear of so many people, and you understand the sentiment. Why can't the donor class in New York City, with all the influence and power that is media, that is finance, that is even technology now, why can't people coalesce and say, this is a train wreck? And we have to figure this out. And we're running out of time. Why can't we?
We're a little bit in that, society where even on either side, people are afraid to step and say, wait a minute, this is not right, because they're afraid of the backlash. And right now he has this wave of, oh, isn't it all wonderful? But look, I mean, I hate to even say this about somebody, but I've read pretty much what he said. It seems anti-Semitic to me. I mean, I don't think there's any debate about that. There are 15 million Jews in the world, probably 6 million in New York. I mean, that's the first group that really needs to get involved in this. And that's not my job. But I would be supportive of it. And, we have these bastions. I mean, I was raised a Democrat, and I want to be a Democrat. I really would like to be an Irish Catholic Democrat. I'm having a hard time because all the things that they stood for, the little guy, the hard worker, the blue collar thing, the build the educational base, that's gone, and they've got basically this guy that says, outlaw the police. Well, And to get to Charlie's old point, the problem we've got is you have 100 instances. One or two are really bad. All the media wants to focus on is the one or two. They're not talking about the 98 other guys that went to work every day, left a family, trying to do the right thing. So we got to focus on this one exception. And that's the problem. We always are picking out the one really negative rather than all of, you don't get equal time on the good work because nobody wants to hear that this guy came on doing his job every day and he's been on the corner. And then 40 years later, somebody that came out of that neighborhood's going to say what a great guy he was, but it's not enough.
One problem is that there's no real business community coalition anymore. And, I've done a lot of reporting on this, the New York City partnership, Wall Street, they're all disjointed. And some of them want to cut deals with Mamdani, and they see that as a better sort of strategy than confronting him and throwing money at one of his opponents. So that there's that. And here's why I said, and I think George Will was sort of saying what I said. Here's what we're saying, not just as an experiment. What we're saying is this city and this state, in many ways, is now controlled by the far left. I mean, they're all in the city council. They're all in the state assembly. Mamdani is not that much of an outlier here. At some point, are we just putting fingers in the? I remember like the kid that kept putting the fingers in the water's coming out.
Would you make that trade? Would you say, okay, we're going to put someone, by his own admission, very inexperienced, to be the mayor of the most influential, powerful city in the world, and we're going to say, yeah, you know what, we're going to take a 4-year gamble that it won't work out.
But my bigger point is
that's just not good risk management. It's terrible.
I'm not saying it is, but my bigger point is we're almost there already. I mean, New York right now, from a financial standpoint, is a shell of itself than it was even during 9/11. We know that. We just know the population decline. We know that the population that has come has been very poor. It's migrants. The population that has left is anybody that can leave because they didn't want to pay the taxes. The businesses continue to diversify out of the state. We have a massive debt program. We got a lot of problems here financially because of the one-party rule. I mean, gone are the days of Rudy Giuliani and George Pataki, unfortunately, or Mike Bloomberg. And my bigger point, I think this is George Will's point, was just give it to them. And let the world see how bad they're going to be. And then let's build from there.
I understand your point, Charlie, and I love George Will. I don't always agree with him, but I love reading his stuff. I understand it. Just, oh my God, it's just, I just feel like I love the city, and it just can't work, and it hasn't worked. That's the thing I'm concerned about. And when you talk about people, and you name some of them that are like, well, if he gets in, it's not the end of the world because the governor can control this and the governor can control that. That's not right either.
Yeah.
Well, I agree with that. I mean, let me tell you something. We know the decisions. You can see it in business. There are ramifications to leadership. I mean, whether it's the head of a football coach or it's the head of a city, I don't buy that, that we're going to have checks and balances.
No,
I just think that if you have that group of people that's leaning that way, to put up a poster boy that's further that way doesn't help. I agree with you, Charlie. It's not good, and I wish you could run a moderate and a fiscal conservative with a more enlightened view on social issues. I'd love that. Give that person and let them run New York City, and we can start the train back. This is not the way back. This is. I just can't believe he's going to be elected in the end. I can't believe that we won't have one person running against him, and then there'll be something to save the day. But I don't know. But I can tell you, this is my doctor over there at NYU. She was. They're going down to Brighton
Hold
Beach.
Hold it up. Let's see it. Let's see what you got there.
This is my doctor. I got all kinds of stupid problems, but I got this brilliant doctor at NYU. And I sort of teasingly said, "Where'd you go to college?" And she said, "Brown." I said, "Where'd you go to med school?" And she said, "Yale." I said, "I don't know how good I feel about this." I said, "You're probably, And then she said, "What are you talking about?" I said, "Well, I'm a Notre Dame boy. I bet I go a little more towards the middle." She goes, "Well, I'm not for this Mamdani. Are you doing anything to stop much?" And so anyway, it's sort of a funny story. But she was going down to Brighton Beach with this, Charlie. Look at this. She was trying to. With all the Russian I can't speak Russian, and I hope this is not anything lewd. I can't imagine it would be. But she's going down there, doing just what Bob is talking about, trying to sell people, look, be aware of what this is. Now, by the way, it's a democratic. If we can't mobilize people to get out and vote, if we can't mobilize the Trump, but then you deserved it. That's a little different than George Will. It's the same result, okay? But people need to stand up now. This was like, he won't get elected. I'm not worried about. Well, he's there now.
He might get. He probably.
Charlie, the math.
I'm telling you,
the math is what
now.
it is. The math is what it is.
If we have two people running against him, he gets elected. So between those two guys, I don't know. We don't have good judgment. Also, we need to basically have some people in that say, okay, look, we're going to do this. This is how we're going to do it, and just face it. The other thing is, Charlie, people don't want to stand up because, and I can understand that a little bit. I tried to do something for the PGA Tour, and all of a sudden, it's just we have this environment that people give a free for all, and guys that have done pretty well, they're worried about their family. They're like, why do I want to be I'm not saying it's right, but you have some element of that it's so painful in the public eye. You don't want to. You want to kind of duck from it a little bit, and I understand that.
Charlie,
it's not right, but I understand it.